All right, let's begin. Hi, my name is Niyama Shong, and right now, what's been flowing through me has been this element of being able to be yourself as you have to come and show yourselves in different mediums and in ways that you wouldn't normally have done. At the time of this recording, we are in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. And for a number of us, that involves us changing the way that people usually get a chance to see us, changing the way, changing the mediums and the venues where we show up. For one of the most easier examples is going from showing up in person in like a workplace to working remotely, or showing up in person when you're meeting new clients or new prospects. So the way that you're delivering your services is shifting, as well as the way that you're bringing new people into your business. Um, and there's that context of a shift in how we're showing up. There's also the context of the shift in terms of what people are ready for, and how to actually meet people where they are. So I've noticed for myself a shift in context. I was launching a program, and that the approach that I was going to go with that program launch feels completely not inappropriate, not completely inappropriate, but it doesn't feel like it's the approach that would really be serving during this time. As well as I'm going to just continue on here with some of the things, just kind of keep this concrete here. Just in the topics that I'm talking about. And what's been really interesting has been during this time of change, there's been one place in particular that feels really important for me in particular, given our tribe of trailblazers, of outliers, of change leaders to speak to, which is really around the element of lead and change. And I talk about lead and change versus I think there's like three ways to be in the change right now. This goes beyond just the time of COVID-19. This goes into, I think we're in a change cycle. Like we're in that part, like the time that we are on this earth is in the midst of a change cycle, and that change will continue on. Right. And so we can react to the change and kind of have it happen to us. We can react like through the change, right? And lead through the change. So while there's change that's taking place with us, how can we kind of continue moving forward as we are? For me, I think about that when it comes to my business here. It's like I have weekly content that goes out. We're having podcast conversations where I'm coaching people, and I'm shifting what I'm doing to allow that to still take place. And we're bringing in some of that context. Even this right now is me leading through that in a little bit. But then there's a third level of this here, which not everyone is going to do. But when I think about you trailblazers, you change leaders, you activists, you entrepreneurs out there, like that element is leading change. It's leading the change. We're in this space right now, and there's what we do, how we show up, can navigate and shift the way that the change takes place. And so with that, it's caused me to have to show up differently, not as someone who's just, how do I continue moving on in the business, but really as someone who's like, how do I show up as a leader for people during this time? And that's been really interesting. It's been really interesting. It's been very confronting. What I don't want you to know about me is that for the last week, I've been silently chastising myself for not coming online faster or reaching out to my community earlier, and so on and so forth. And by the time you watch this here, this might all be behind us, but I want to make sure that I'm expressing what's real for me in this moment here, because there will continue to be change later, and I don't want to miss the reality of this here for you and for myself and for others going forward. And so I've been chastising myself for how it feels like I'm not showing up. And I think the part of the reason there is I'm still present in different ways, but it's been a really interesting thing to figure out how do I show up now. For me, what I found is that, and it's really just kind of started opening up again in the last 2 days, but my my approach to it has been to leaning into just getting onto video, like, and hidden record live, and just leaning into it and showing up messy, showing up incomplete. There's a post out there right now on Facebook that was just a start of like, hey, I want you to come to something on this day at this time. No other information on it, but it was like, if I didn't get that out in the world, I wouldn't have been able to actually still show up with people. So I'm experimenting with that right now, myself. And I bring this into, as you think about your leadership, where are areas where you can just show up? And what are the areas that are actually challenging to you around showing up? Where are areas that make you feel that you're supposed to, it's almost like a projection of how you're supposed to be. That's probably one of the bigger things that was keeping me trapped. It was like, oh, as a leader, I have to write this immense COVID-19 like email. It's like, in times of change, and then like this long like paragraph thing, and I have to come in, have to be like, everything's happening. There's so much going on right now that everything I need to say has to pack that punch. And if it doesn't have a wallop behind it, what am I even doing? Having the conversation. And also with it, it was not. There was a brief period of time of who am I to lead, and then I realized I'm like, who am I not to? Like, this is what this is all about. But then there was also a period of, is the stuff that the ways that I lead people, is that relevant right now? And there was I'm bringing up some of these things here because you're still seeing me out in the world. You're still seeing me go and move forward, and I want to make sure that as you're seeing some of the outer stuff, I'm sharing what's happening on my own inner journey as well. And so even with all this here, there's still output that's coming out. And I want to make sure that I'm with you on this journey. So my invitation to you is to really just ask yourself the question here: how do I show up as a change leader in times of change, such that I am leading the change as opposed to just leading through the change? This is our opportunity to make something happen. So today, I get to talk to a change leader, a trailblazer, who really inspires me, especially when it comes to her work around belonging. As you know, belonging is something that just really, it means a lot to me. I know how to be. I can feel lonely in a crowd. There was a time in my life where everyone knew my name, but no one really knew me. And I think there's this element of even I think everything I was saying even just before here was, how do I belong to myself as a leader, and how do I belong with my tribe? How do I belong with my people? And now we get a chance to, I'm really excited because I get a chance to serve Monique here in this conversation and go and experience belonging with you. I can actually see myself, like I can feel it as I shift my eyes from looking at the camera to looking at you. I'm incredibly excited to be in this conversation with you, Monique. I'm going to unmute you here. I'd love for you to just speak yourself into this room. Let's like welcome to this experience.
You want me to speak myself into this room?
Yeah. And let's give some context around. Let's give a container around, because there's a lot. I would love to know, like, for the game that you play right now, right? The impact that you make and the trail that you blaze. Like, let us know who you are.
Still packed. Yeah, the trail that I blaze. So for me, belonging has just been something I've struggled with for a lot of my life. I didn't feel like I belonged, and I always found myself in relationship with people who were like maybe the weirdos and the outcasts. Like, we gravitate towards each other, and in our unbelonging, we belong. So that's been truly great for me because I know those experiences and I can feel them. But what I realized was outside of these interactions where I felt like I belong, ultimately I didn't belong, and the people who I didn't belong with maybe felt that they didn't belong with me either. So I realized I can be with like-minded people and feel that I can exist unapologetically, but I really struggled with feeling like I could exist with other people who maybe didn't see eye to eye with me, who I maybe had more conflict with, in particular, my family. So I really started digging into how I could show up differently in those relationships so that we could create a space where everyone can step out of what the norm was and just like really shift into a place of like trying to understand.
Awesome. And so like let's like I love being in that space here with you. I like to I love to go out and just start off here and with a list of like your outer journey, right? So I have a feeling that belonging is going to come in throughout this. We'll find spaces to be out of the norm because we just can't help it, you know. One of the things I love to just get a sense of here is a little bit of like your outer journey, the things that people see about you on the outside, right? It might include your greatest hits, your list of accomplishments, the things that you're most proud of, but a sense of you from like the external side of things. Then we'll spend some time afterwards, like really looking into like if they really knew you and we were moving on from there, how we, and that's a place that will grow us all. All right.
I'm smiling because like I know where this conversation is going already.
Oh,
Yeah. So for me, I find my perspective that people see me as, if that made sense, was that like I'm this joyous and bubbly and kind-hearted person who is like so willing to give and share and like make sure everyone's needs are okay. But what they don't know about me is like I'm fucking pissed off a lot. um, you know, and a lot of it comes to injustice in the world and ignorance and like, and I don't think I let people see that side of me very often where I'm actually like infuriated with the way things are going. So I like that you brought that up.
thank you for being here. Like this is it. This is the game of like how do we show up? We show up, right? Cool. So let's like I'm already feeling like we can be in this space as both you and I need to be. Like let's use this time here to really be in service of you, right? And like bring all of you to the table. Bring all of you to the table here because this is the time. I invited you to be selfish. I'm going to put that out as a reminder of that agreement here. But yeah, like if this was going to be like, let's say this, if this was not going to be just like our standard conversations, and our standard conversations are typically life changing conversations. Like that's like the bar that I set for it. So if we were going to go beyond our normal conversations, like what's the direction that we would need to start this into to start off in to get us to where we need to be?
Yeah. So I think it all comes back to that showing up. And showing up is all that we are. Sorry, I'm going to own that. Like for me, I want to show up more authentically in all that I am, whether that's in like the joyful aspects or the angry ones or the sad ones. For me, I feel like there's this like standard about like who I'm supposed to be and how I show up to the world, and I should always be loving and kind and gracious but complacent. And truly like saying that about someone and expecting them to live in this container you've placed them in um, doesn't help build emotional intelligence or like using our emotions for me, sorry, um, I remember being in a super fiery conversation about injustice with someone, and they were like, we can't go into the world angry like that. And I was like, okay, I'm angry in this moment, yes, and I'm expressing that to you, which you're uncomfortable with, but I'm going to use this anger to fuel something better. So recognizing that I have a right to be angry and I can show up with anger, and still create spaces of safety for people to exist in that anger, right? For me, it's always been something I've run away from. So this is a new experience.
Yeah, as you say, and still create places of safety there, or spaces of safety. I actually, what came to my mind was like, I feel more safe with people when they're actually able to express all of who they are, because there's something in the back of my mind that's like, it's constantly scanning. It's what I've realized this quite recently. Like, I'm constantly scanning here, and there's a level of like, if I don't know if you're genuine or if you're being real, then there's something that might come out and get me. And to tell you the truth, what I think really happens is, I know that I'm a lot for a lot of people. And so, and the topics I take on are heavy, and I get bored with people's conversations when we have small talk and such. And I'm at a place right now where I'm like, again, I'm like life changing conversation or above. And there's an element that I'm just really feeling right now for myself, like, that just feels, oh, I feel safer when I know that someone can be that fully in expression. So tell me more. Tell me, like, if I find myself right now curious with, like, what do you want to do with all this? Like you are a master of belonging. You're going, you have, there's more to you, and you're bringing all that out and you're showing up differently. I'm kind of like, I find myself really curious to, like, where is it that you're looking to be showing up right now? Um, yeah, that let's go with that as the question for now. Is that a clear enough question? Do I need to?
Maybe bring it in just a little bit
Yeah,
more.
cool. You talk about that you are looking to show up, and my question is, where are you looking to show up now?
Yeah. So a big part of that is nowhere physically. Just kidding. The part of it is distancing myself from people, amongst this whole thing that's happening right now with COVID. So that's one aspect, but nothing that I'm not used to, because working from home has been my thing on and off for the past year. It also means not interacting with people, but I realize there is a couple platforms where I can still interact with people and still be of service to myself and others. I just haven't stepped into that. So I would like to be online and creating a platform where people who are also in social distancing circumstances can also feel like they have a space to explore that experience, because ultimately isolation brings up a lot of our darkness, which is also tied into like emotionally navigating that. So like I said, for me, it's like this anger. I want to show up with that. I want people to be able to see who I am on all fronts, and not just like the me that I think that they want to see. I think that's ultimately the places where I would like to show up more.
Awesome. So, would it serve you right now to just explore one place or one space to have that kind of experience?
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe the online, I don't like doing the video stuff, but I realize like that's how people are going to get to know me, is if I do more of that reaching out online, especially right now. I met this gentleman the other day and he was so inspiring, and he ended up talking to me for probably like 10-15 minutes about like this beautiful space he's created of belonging within his workplace and how they get along and like all this stuff. And I'm like, man, I would love to serve this person. And I automatically went to this like, what do I have to offer him? So as I'm reading your email coming into this, it's like, bring your fears, like bring your dreams and your fears. And all of a sudden I was like, oh yeah, what do I have to offer this man? And then I had this insight that was like, what does he have to offer himself? And I felt at that moment that I didn't really have to get on the call with you because I was already served before we even stepped into it just by that email. So yeah, like this recognition, like it's not about me, it's about those people. I'll get insight from my conversations with people because I always do, but it's not how I can offer them something, but how they can offer themselves something. So that was really cool.
Let's break that down real quick. Let's slow down in this really quickly here.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing that with me. Firstly, like it's something that it's changed the way that I show up myself, because I used to like think, okay, I have to take people down a specific journey. Monique, you just said to me, you're like, dude, you served me before I even got on this call. You know, I had like I had no idea, but I know. I think that's kind of the power of the work that we do, right? That's kind of the power of just choosing to show up. Like it makes me think and chuckle a little bit about what it might be like for someone to be like just the invitation to that individual, where it's like, hey, I love to serve you. Like I've had people where we've come on conversations and I've created some agreements with them to allow us to like really slow down and really focus on them. And we haven't actually started quote unquote coaching, and the tears are already coming, right? At the releasing of that energy is already, and they're getting served just because they're getting an experience of having the attention on them, of being able to actually allow themselves to be selfish or to be the person who's taking up space. So I bring that in there because I wanted to slow down and like actually capture like you got an automated email from me that said this is how to come out and be, you know, and you're like, oh, I got what I needed.
Yeah.
And so I like as you're going through and these questions come up, I want to give you even more space where just the way that you ask the question, just the fact that you ask someone into the conversation may or not, like that could be its service in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
How does that feel? Does that feel like it? Like, how does that feel when I say that here?
I think it just solidifies that it's not about me. Like when I do this and when I am of service to other people, let me go back. When I'm in service to myself, I'm in service to other people. And that goes for other people as well. When they're in service to themselves, they're in service to others. So creating a platform where they can do that is quite valuable, or even acknowledging that there is a space for that is really, really great.
Awesome. So you were saying a little bit earlier, you're like, all right, online. You brought up something about like online and video and such, and you're like, that's not really where I want to be, but I guess that's where people are. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Yeah, tell me a little bit more about that. I'm gonna see if I can understand what's going on right now.
Yeah, I guess every time I've hosted a series or something, I've always reached out to people who I've connected with, who've inspired me, who I'd love to be involved, which I could do again because it works. But I guess there was this need at this moment where I feel like maybe there's a lot of noise on social media right now too. So this is where I kind of like struggle with the back and forth of everything. But maybe extending an invitation virtually to everyone to see who is wanting to be in a space where they can connect and have some accountability and some checking in a group. Because right now I feel like I know myself, if I'm at home for long periods of time and I don't get to go out and do things, I'll probably not get out of my pajamas. I'll probably just like eat snacks and watch Netflix all day. And I might fold a load of laundry if I'm inspired to. But it's a really big downward spiral if I don't feel accountable or like I need to be somewhere. It's a dangerous place to be in. So that, I think, going online and creating something where people can come for myself and for other people to just acknowledge what our experience is right now and what we need, what our fears are, how we can connect, not only like the psychological and emotional support, but like maybe there are some people that need some physical items that, you know, they can't go out and get them, or there's something else that's going on. We're kind of in this time where like we're not very abundant, and that's huge. That's huge in our lives. My life.
So I'm following. I'm tracking with you. What is, and there's different things that are going on through my mind, but I want to make sure that we're actually getting to the core of what all this is for you. If you had a bottom line and like speak from the heart as to what is keeping you from building out this platform tomorrow.
Yeah, that I will get lost in the noise. That, oh, sorry, yeah.
No, you go. Let's keep going.
Like there's so many people who are kind of like, this is where my anger comes in. I feel like there's so many people, especially in the spiritual community, that are kind of like, I have this product and it will keep you warm, just like, or not warm, but keep you safe from COVID. Just spritz it and smudge it or whatever. And like, it's worked for me before, but we're not in a space where we've had that before. So I guess I'm like seeing all these people pushing things, and I don't want to feel like I'm pushing, and I don't feel in my heart that I'm pushing, but more I have this like acknowledgement that we're in a scary place, and more than ever, we need support. So I guess I have this fear that I'm going to come off as like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like that icky feeling that I've got from other coaches before where, you know, I feel like there's this like clear boundary in how you show up for people as a coach. And I guess like a little bit of me is like afraid of like coming off like that. Whether that's a reality or not, I don't know. But I know what that feels like and how like disingenuous it feels to have someone like have that coaching vibe, you know, that like, you're a rock star, you got this, you know, like, but yeah, I guess I wouldn't do that. So it must, yeah, it's an illogical fear, really.
Well, let me just ask you here. If you were going through your day and you had been in pajamas most of your day and you're on episode 7 of whatever show you just happened to pick up, and you're like, you stop folding laundry for a second to go onto either your email, your WhatsApp, your text messages, your social media, and you saw an invitation, and it wasn't a pitch, but it was an invitation from someone that says, "Hey, I'm ready to change up my day. I know what it's like to be isolated or to create more distance than I need to, and I know the downward spiral that can come as a result of it. And what I want to do is create an opportunity for you and other people to come in and just be able to be, once again, to be able to be angry at the situations or with the way that you see other things going on, to be able to bring your fears into the mix, to be able to have all of your emotions, and just be able to be safe and have an area to express it with me and anyone else that is actually interested in this kind of stuff. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you're interested here, we're meeting at 7 p.m. on this day. Leave a comment, and I'll make sure you get a message. If you saw that right there, right in the midst of all that, how would you feel seeing that?
That felt good. That felt like really honest and clear and straightforward. It's not love and light and sunshine and daisies at this time. It's a very real experience, and that just felt super raw and just, yeah, very vulnerable, and I appreciate that.
So my invitation is for you to continue to be in the space of being real and being like, being raw, being vulnerable, whatever that is for you. Like you said, being honest. I think that's the biggest part of it all right here. Like if you're willing to be honest along the path there, like that in and of itself, I feel will open up what it is that you will open up, will create the space before you've even gotten into the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
What are we missing here? What are we missing here right now?
Probably the boldness to do that. Yeah,
Let's
probably just the boldness. Yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize to me, Monique. You're good. You're really good. Um, let's talk about the bonus, because look, what I'm hearing here is it's COVID is a really interesting time, because I feel like it's a crucible right now. But like regardless of, there will continue to be consistent change, but there's also an element of stepping up into a new form of leadership or new mediums of leadership, right? And that's what I'm hearing here. We have the backdrop of COVID-19. We have the backdrop of social distancing right now, but there's going to be something else in the future where you and your work and belonging and your work of bringing people together is going to be necessary as well, whether it's this scenario or not, whether it's online or it's now saying, how do I take a stadium full of people, or like I got invited to do this in an organization, and does an organization really want this here, or are they going to be thinking about their day-to-day work and so on and so forth. So when I hear you say this here, I hear it as, I'm hearing it from the standpoint of how, like, when you need to play in a different arena, or you have something that you feel is really important for you to get out into the world, how do we help you step onto whatever that platform happens to be at that time? And every time you step into a new platform, you might have a different variation of this. So we're going to continue down this path with the timely element of what's happening right now, but you can always come back to this video and like remind yourself of some of what we're talking about here. I want to call out kind of why I'm choosing to go down certain paths, and also pull out like the meta understandings underneath it, so that you can always come back to the principles that will serve you. Does that work for you?
Yeah. Yeah. So
tell me about this boldness here. I don't want to make any assumptions yet. I want to just make sure I see your world before I continue. Tell me about like the boldness that you feel will be required.
Yeah. So, do you know what this just reminded me? When I was a kid, I would just be like I would just be like high energy, in your face, very present, like always going, not afraid of like being the center of attention. And then like somewhere down the line, like I was told I'm too much. And I think that has like definitely ingrained in me that like you shouldn't be bold and forward and like bringing attention to yourself. So I think like that's something that I didn't actually think about, but now that we're talking, I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I feel like I've kind of like shut this down. Like, yeah, I like share things on social media, but I've never actually like stepped out and been like pulled the attention to myself, because it's something that isn't appropriate, or like from, you know, some people's point of view when I was a kid, like you just don't do that. You just don't, I don't know, like girls should be complacent and quiet and be of service without making noise. So I make noise, but it's like silent noise. It's like posting and like showing up to protests, but never like running anything. I mean, like I have done my coaching and that kind of thing. But that's different because it's like in a space like this where it's like either one-on-one or a group, but it's not like for the world to see. It's not like bringing this like everyone's eyes over here, if that makes sense. That feels very vulnerable for me. Yeah.
What's going on inside you as you share that?
I guess like a little bit of sadness, you know, that I used to be courageous and like just willing and open and just more, yeah, just more. It's just more. And so just like acknowledging that, like I've let someone's story of who they think I should be really change the way I show up for people and myself. And I guess there's like a little bit of like aching for that part of me that, you know, maybe like you talk a lot about being in exile. Like that's a part that I've definitely held in exile. I know when I like talk about this anger, like, which is really interesting. So this weekend I was having like this conversation with my partner's parents, and it was like, I thought it was like an enlightening conversation. And then I was accused of it being in my head. So I don't know, you probably know this about me, like I'm a sensitive person. So like I feel things that other people are experiencing, and I see things in more depth than, you know, other people see things. And I'm very observant, and, you know, I just feel a lot. So as I'm like sharing what I'm feeling and my experience and what I've seen, I'm getting this like, it's in your head. That's in your head. You're overanalyzing this. And I shut down, and I just got so angry, and my partner looked at me. He's like, you look mad. And in front of his family, I just like exploded. I was like, because I'm getting told that everything is in my head. Like I'm literally, someone is telling me that what I'm saying is a lie. And that, like, so that was like part of me saying like my anger, I want to show up with everything. I wish I could have navigated the anger in that moment better, and still allowed it to be there. But I didn't navigate it very well. And then sorry, go ahead.
Can I pause really quickly here? And I'm interrupting on purpose. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
There's a part of me that's like, what does it look like to navigate anger well?
Oh shit, yeah. I was thinking about that. Like even if I acknowledged when that finger was being pointed at me, if I was like, oh, I'm getting a little worked up here. Like I'm taking that personally. Like I'm angry in this moment, or like something that acknowledged the presence of it. So that, because I knew it on the inside, and I felt myself go rigid and get hot, and like, and my voice was getting more confrontational. So I felt like here I am doing all this work with people about how to show up differently. But I feel like the people who I should be most open with, I'm actually the most guarded with, besides my partner.
I get that. I really do get that. And yeah, I get that element of being guarded there with the people. It's almost like actually, I want to play this one other thing out, but just know that I'm with you on that. What is the gift that you gave those people at that table by actually allowing yourself to be angry in the way that you were?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that too. The gift that I gave them. I guess like my realness in all my forms. Like I felt safe enough that I could be angry. Um, and then the next day I circled back and apologized, and that felt good. And offered up some like other ways that this person could have questioned me, and tried to like figure out something. So the gift was like I was willing to not only feel my anger, but like communicate more deeply about how we interact with each other. Um, yeah.
And I asked that for a couple of different reasons. Like, I want to make sure. So the reason I'm asking this here, and I think I've shared with you, anger is probably one of the most vulnerable expressions of me. Joy is also very vulnerable because people don't take me seriously. I feel if I'm too joyful, and I'm like, no, there's legitimacy to me. But anger is something like in particular, I'm like, I get. But regardless of what that emotion would have been, whether it was sadness or whatever it is, um, you've expressed multiple times in this conversation that you want a space where like you can bring all of that in, and so there's a part of me that's listening to this here and saying, okay, um, how, like, if that's the case here, like, if you want to bring that, be able to bring all that in, what is the gift that being able to have anger in your life, and being able to express it as well, what is the gift that that gives you? And I just want to just make sure that we get a chance to play with that. And then also just juxtapose onto the conversation around turning yourself down, like being too much here. I like what really I think set me down this path was this the idea here of like, oh, is there a way, is this another example or another way of how you have like you're conditioned to take an emotion that might be intense, take your an expression of you that might feel intense to you or to others, and like be like, well, I'm angry, but I must be polite in my anger such that I am not seen as too much or whatever it is here. So this is how you're supposed to see me, and here goes the joyful expression of my anger.
Yeah. No, that was pretty explosive. It was literally, um, it was more than I've allowed myself to be in a long time. I don't get there very often. Normally, you're right. Like, I present my anger as like, I'll take it away and I'll think about it and I'll come up with the right things to say. And I don't usually like present my anger in its immediate place. I do want to acknowledge, though, that my anger gives me energy and fuel to persist, against injustice and to create better boundaries for myself and others. So I do know that gift that my anger offers. I got nothing.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I saw you thinking, so I wanted to give you some space to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, look,
yeah.
and look, as you're talking, I'm going to be honest with you, right? There's a part of me that's like, it feels sometimes like a catch 22, right? Where it's like, okay, how do we allow someone to just be all of who they are, and all of who they are also includes like the like everything, right? It includes the anger, it includes the sadness, it includes disgust, it includes all these things here, and it's all and so there's a part of me that's even in this conversation, I'm asking myself, am I being responsible with by encouraging this here? And and honestly, there's a part of me that's like, it's like this is part of the work. It is messy. It is not like we wake up one day and we're just like everything is fine. Like what I heard from you was that like you were expressing yourself that like it seemed that the like and the way that you handled it afterwards, like I don't know how to describe it. I think it's a really interesting juxtaposition of being able to be all of you and still also like want to take care of other people throughout that process, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am curious here. Um, because right now anger really feels like it's present for you. Uh, so like I am curious. You're calling anger as energy, and but I would look to it and all, as you have your various energies. One of my invitations to you is to see what is the is just to pay attention to what the output of that energy is. Almost like the residue of it. Like
Mm-hmm.
anger provides energy. What is the residue of the like when you burn that anger energy? What is the residue of that? Sadness can provide energy. Like I'm deeply saddened by this here, and it moves me into action. I'm moved. When you burn that energy, what is the residue of that? Joy can provide energy. When you burn that energy, what is the result of that? So I would like I'm going to invite you to take a as you continue exploring and bringing out more of you into your world and into your leadership and into the way that you show up. I would also invite you to just see like yeah, I'll call it the residue of it. Like what is the aftermath for yourself from an energy perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is an invitation overall to just pay attention to as you have it as you go on to see which energy sources do you want to pull or draw from at which times,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How could you be using your anger to help you be bold in this moment?
In this moment, how can I use my anger to be bold?
And it may not be when I say in this moment, I don't mean in this conversation particularly. I mean you can bring out whatever you want. I can handle it. But what I mean is with you stepping up in your leadership to bring people together.
Mm-hmm. I guess allowing this like fierceness for um, a different trajectory for my family and myself. And in this case, Morgan's family, like using that anger to fuel better conversations, even though they're really hard and difficult. I think that they need to be had and often come up when I'm in those spaces. So the interesting thing was today I was talking with a friend and we were talking about ignorance and how ignorance, I compared it to Advil for your emotions, like and so you don't have to experience the depth of despair that's going on in the world. And I think that deserves to be fought for understanding that there is a reality beyond your immediate perception. And I think it's important that people maybe stop taking that emotional Advil and start really experiencing the world, because there's this like disconnection. Even when I think about being complacent is a disconnection from how I truly authentically feel in any given moment. So if I take away my Advil and complacency, then I actually get to experience things as they come up without feeling this urgency to like protect the world around me so deeply. Yeah.
So what if you didn't need to be bold right now and instead you just allowed yourself to be honest?
Mm-hmm.
There's like in what you had just said right there, like, and here goes the thing about that I would feel like if you were actually really honest, you would be more than most people will be able to handle, more than most people are expecting. Like it would be a lot. Is there some part of me that is there some part of that that's true? Let me see.
I guess I do feel like I would be a lot. Um, I guess
And,
this goes back to my last place of work last year, and I allowed them to mistreat me for 3 years. And during that time, I was like angry and like probably pretty volatile. I wouldn't say like pretty volatile, but like draining to people around me. So I guess there's this hesitancy, but I also didn't recognize what my anger was telling me in that moment. Was that like, not only was I angry at those people, but I was angry at myself for not practicing better boundaries. And so I wasn't processing my experience in a healthy way at all. So I think that there is a way to process your anger and really truly understand what it's telling you and what direction I need to go in, and where, like when I think about it, when my anger shows up, I have a choice to pretend it's not there and not be of service to myself and others, or I have a choice to honor what that anger is telling me and then say what needs to be said, regardless of whether people want to hear it or not, and be of service.
I'm going to toss in something here because there's an element of this that I think there's an element in that last part that can keep you in integrity with like how you stand for it, right? There's a regardless of whether people want to hear it or not. My invitation to you is, how can you find a way to bring people in so that they are ready to receive what it is that you have to say?
Mm.
And you don't have to answer that in this moment, but I think that's one of the questions that like you can continue with. And it's not necessarily about being like, it's not about changing your message so that they can receive it the way you want it to be. It's not that, you know. I wouldn't. There's it just, is there a space where you can? Is there? I do it with agreements. I'll be talking to someone and they're saying something, and I'm like, oh, I got to be real with this person right now. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll stop and I'll be like, hey, real quick, before I go on, like, I just have like just three things I need to just check in with you. Firstly, like, is that all right? And I'll be like, I'm gonna hide nothing and hold nothing back. You know my agreements. You've heard
Mm-hmm.
several of them, right? And once we've created that agreement, it's less of like it's less of a, I don't know how to say it. I have found that in the times when I don't create the agreements, it creates that disconnect, such that my words aren't actually, or not even my words, but my emotions, my energy is not actually able to be transferred and received.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've been working on that, especially with my parents and being more transparent with them and uh, showing up differently and just telling them like we can't keep communicating the way we do because this isn't helpful. That being said, I've been practicing that with them, and it takes time and effort to build something with people, especially if over the past 30 years you haven't
Yeah.
been building that, right? So I think, yeah, I see what you're saying, and I also think that you can implement things, but if like it will still take time.
And let me ask you this though: outside of your family, how does that apply? Because the family, you had 30 years of things going one direction. Now you're like, you're like, I get that. But outside of your family, when it comes to without, yeah, when it comes to where you're stepping into now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get the sense that the spaces you want to create are beyond your family, and your family is part, like, it's part of what has helped you to get to this place of knowing how to do it, or going down the path of learning these skills. But I get the sense that what you're looking to do is beyond your family. So let me just check in with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I use my family as an example because like that's where I'm challenged the most when it comes to my anger and my
I think that's where
emotions.
we're all challenged the most.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that's like, I think that is a fair place to be. And
yeah,
I feel like you are about that and something beyond.
yeah. Hmm. I guess like part of me is just like questioning how to create those safe spaces for other people to exist in whatever with me, with them.
And I'm sorry, you can probably see my smile right now. Cause I'm like, I think we might need to go. Do you have a few more minutes
Yep.
to go here? Okay. Um, so I'll explain to you what's happening, for me right here, right? Um, in our conversation, right, we've explored like to me, I feel like that element of you being too much is actually really important. And it might show up right now from like, okay, I have this idea. Should I go online and show up that way, and actually take up space, right? Take up
Yeah.
space and say, hey, look, like the attention's on me, you know. Um, there's an element of right now. There's a lot of anger that's going through you right now. There's a place of like, how do you process it, and like, and then where do you process it? And there's a part of where do you want to channel it. A part like that becomes really interesting for me. It's like, yes, there's a lot that's happening within your family, but there may be other places where you can channel it, where that kind of energy would be really well received and exactly what
Mm-hmm.
they need. You know, not to displace it. That's not it, but to channel it. Right. Um, and there's an element of this conversation too that where honestly I could see us leaving this conversation, and you still not being like in a place where you're like, okay, I'm going to go out and actually start bringing people together. That is like, that's where I'm like, okay, we're going deeper and deeper and deeper on this year. And I really, really appreciate and acknowledge your candor, your honesty, your vulnerability, and your realness around what is going on for you here. I don't. I'm someone who loves to go deeper. There's another, but I feel like there's another side of this here that we need to explore, because I almost feel like you're so we're intellectually getting deeper. I don't know if we're getting heart deeper, right?
Okay. Yeah.
That's so like I'm letting you know all the things that are going on, because sometimes it just seems like, where's this question going, or where's he at? I'm gonna bring I'm actually practicing for myself, like what are my thought processes that help me navigate these things, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so there's another side of me that wants to now go and explore depth. Now I want to explore growth,
Mm-hmm.
right? Are you good with exploring growth with me for a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hold on one second there. I cannot work with a half commitment.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Cool. You can be a
There's
no.
like this willingness that's like, let's play, and this willingness that's like, ah. So yeah, that's what that like, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So
But yes,
so
absolutely.
so before we go, like I hear the yes, absolutely. I feel it there. I also still feel nervous energy. I'm okay with nervous energy, but I want to like make sure it's grounded, right? So like, just do me the favor here. We're good. We've talked for an hour. We can stop this conversation right here. I just feel like I'm like, I have the time. I think that in serving you, there will be a lot of other people who are actually served. Because especially right now, this is the time that for exactly what you want to be doing in the world, it is needed, you know? And so I don't want to shortchange that by not giving it its space, or not giving the invitation for the space to be there. Whether or not you want to walk through it, whether it's the right thing, whether you're like, actually, no, I feel I want to end it here. That's that's on you. But if we choose to go, I want to choose to go down this as partners, walking down the journey together, versus someone that is dragging you on something to kind of, because that in and of itself will not work as well. So take some time. I'm good with this being a no. And if you're like, well, what is it going to look like on the podcast, and what is it going to look like that? I'm like, it will look like what it looks like to be really in connection with someone, and really be in a place where your ego isn't on the line in order to serve someone. So if we end up saying no right now, then that is the best thing to happen. And someone is going to watch this at some point and be like, you can do that, you know? So so just know that any answer you give me is the right answer. Given that, if we choose to continue, I like to make sure that we're both going through it as two partners, able to look at this side by side.
Yes, I am willing. I think that you just called me directly on that is like, I'm like, I want to get online, but I definitely would go back inward and not do that. Like, even after this call, I'm like, yeah, I want to be of service to other people. I'd just be like back in my hidey hole. So yes, we should move forward.
Okay. All right, cool. And are you willing to come side by side with me on that journey?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Awesome. I respect you for doing this. I don't think it's an easy thing to do. And I also, I just really see what you have to offer. And I'm like, are you ready to do it? If so, let's make that happen. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I want to play this one here is I want to invite you. I want to call upon your too muchness. I am not interested in playing with any part of you that is just enough. I'm not, or is like, and that is holding back or wandering there. I'm looking for you to be able to be the moreness of you. Right. You mentioned earlier, there's a place that you feel where you almost feel the moreness. Can you like get in touch with that in your body really quickly? Like when you are really being, some people use the word extra, when you're being like, when you're being out of the norm, when you're being too much, when you're being the tall poppy, when you're like, you're the nonconformist, the unconventionalist, the person that's just like, I want that part.
Yeah, I feel that in my heart.
All right, so let's have a heart to heart here. All right. What I want to do is help you heartstorm. I've stopped brainstorming with people because it's only gotten us so far. I want to help you heartstorm. So I'm glad that's where you're feeling it. About all the ways that you can be too much. Here goes my invitation to you. For this part of the conversation, if it's not too much, this is my mantra of 2020. If it's not too much, it's not enough. If it's not too much, it's not enough.
I hear that.
Whoa, yeah. Whoa. So let's brainstorm a bit here. My goal is to help you. My goal is to help you totally clear the too much threshold. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me right now, just first thing off your heart right now, what would feel too much for you to be in terms of the way that you show up as a leader right now?
Too much, honestly, feels like being extroverted right now. I don't know. Yeah, well, you probably remember we've talked a lot about me being in this inward journey over the past little while. So too much and being like bold and out there is like reconnecting with people. It's like leading people and getting into like the nitty gritty of it all. Can't I just practice belonging by myself?
You can.
Yeah.
You can. You absolutely can. And the thing is that if I felt that all you want to do was just belong to yourself, then that's the path we would go. Like, and look, that might be where you are. But I also get the sense that like you're like, no, like I want to belong with others and create these spaces of belonging, right? And I hear the desire in you, and so I want to acknowledge that. But yeah, I mean, it is possible. Like that, we could keep going down depth and find more and more ways for you to belong to yourself. It's a never-ending journey, and I'm good with that. But I feel like there's something more that you want. So I just want to just check in with you. Are you good with us continuing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Let's see. The being extroverted, as you said in this case here, is that being too much? Is that too much for them, or is that too much for you?
It honestly feels like too much for me. Like I normally have this like huge vibrancy to me, and as of like this past few months, I feel like I'm in this, the word cocoon came to my mind, where like I've been like experiencing deep growth and examination of my being. I think I mentioned to you, like, COVID-19 is like the ultimate boss. Like, I'm at that final boss right now of being inward, and I have to come out. I have to come out. But it's terrifying to think of. But actually, no, I don't want to say that, because, like, maybe me being big and huge and energized is who I was. And now I can just be this, and this is okay too. So maybe showing up like this in this space that I am in, maybe that's all right. Maybe I don't have to go back to being this, like, huge, energized person that is, like, super vibrant, and just, like, be with this really grounded person that I have stepped into, because I don't think this is a place that I've ever been, but it's where I am now, and that's what's authentic in this moment. So maybe I can just show up like this.
Let me ask you really quickly. You used the word maybe about 6 times in the last bit there, right? What do you know to be true about what you just said?
All of it. That here I am talking about being authentic, and I think that being authentic isn't like this perception of who I should be, but who I am currently. And this is who I am currently. And that is being authentic. And that is belonging within myself. There isn't this need to strive to be too much. Like, I can just use this, because this feels like grounded wisdom and heart-centeredness. And even if it's an angry heart, sometimes it just feels like a coming into self. And so, yeah, going out in public with this, it feels vulnerable, because I've never showed up like this before. I've always showed up as whoever that was before. So, yeah.
Conclude that. There's a so. What's the yeah?
Yeah.
What's your takeaway there? What are you telling yourself with this?
What I'm telling myself is that there's always this pressure to be somewhere I'm not, to be more knowledgeable, to be more outgoing socially, to be more, like, just more, to be different, to be elsewhere. And just acknowledging that, like, I don't have to show up how other people think I should show up, or how I used to show up. I've gone through a really big change over this past few months, and that means that I'm different. And that's a beautiful place to be, because it's the constant evolution of how I am. And maybe I will revisit who I used to be, and maybe that will be there at some point, but this is who I am now, and there's great power in who I am now.
You used the word earlier. You talked about wisdom earlier, and now you're talking, and then you were just now saying that I always feel I have to be more knowledgeable. And they're completely different things, right? I think about knowledge up here in the head, and I feel like wisdom is like in your deep gut intuition, like you just, like, it's true knowing. It's beyond that. Mm-hmm. So coming from the place of where you are now, right? Because coming from the way that you are right now, I think the question in my mind is just like, it's just, what would you want to create? Quick, I can see you thinking. All right, I can see you thinking about it. Right, and this is the part here where, and look, if it's too soon to go into creation, and you're still like, actually, I'm still like doing the cocoon work right now. I get it. All right, so I don't like I get it. I don't need you to be in creation mode right now. I think that there's seasons for everything. And if you're in a season of winter and you're like, okay, I need to actually cut down different things, go inside, hibernate, incubate, reassess, realign, totally get you. Right. And if that's the case, then let's call that to be the case. And there's another part of me that also feels like I'm feeling your desire to create. And from being in some places like this myself along my journey, I I've seen the benefit of being able to create and align to the creation, align
Mm-hmm.
to like, this is where I'm trying to go. This is what I want to bring into the world, and then bring alignment into that. So that's why I'm asking this here. That's why I'm playing this game out here, so that like, as you're doing the work and as you continue to go deeper, you're building roots and foundation toward growing in the direction that you're looking to grow in.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting that you say that, because um, I think I came out of a call one day and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And then I recognized, like, no, I'm not. And it wasn't like a discouraged, no, I'm not, but like, that's not where you are. And as inspired as I do feel to connect deeply with people, I'm still feeling this inwardness. And I want to trust that. But I also acknowledge that it can be a really good tool for everyone right now. But I also acknowledge that me being in service to myself and giving myself this permission is also being of service to other people.
It works the other way too. Like, so there's an element of uh, I've learned more about myself through coaching others than I would have just being coached. So there's
Absolutely.
so yeah. So and I think you know that to some extent when you said that. Absolutely, like I actually believed you when you said that one. You know, and
Yeah.
so there's an element here of like, I don't know if it needs to be either or, right? You're like, it could be that your next levels of depth and understanding yourself more come by being able to by putting yourself in a different environment to in which to explore it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend, he plays piano on Broadway, and he was telling me, he's like, I used to spend all this time practicing alone, but now I wake up in the morning and I go and I do like I practice. I do like I play in front of people for like a dance class, you know, and other people will be thinking about these different things in his head. It's like, for me, that's what warms me up. That's where I need to practice, because I need to be able to I need to feel the energy of a room and see like that's what I need. I know how to technically do all the scales. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I can play any sheet of music in front of me. Now I need to learn how do I transcend the sheet here and actually move with people, listen and see, so forth, so on and so forth. And I was just thinking about that a little bit in this conversation here, where what it feels to me is that like there's something gentle and honest about you that is just exactly where you are, that if you ever choose to make an invitation on it, would be exactly the right invitation. I like you have in your like you I haven't, we're not going to spend this time exploring it, but there's a vision that I feel like, if like, what does the extroverted, energized, like out there, like, you know, Monique look like? And I think you're like, that's not me right now. And I feel like there's a part of this, like, I can only, if I was going to build what I want to build, I would need to be that.
Mm-hmm.
And my invitation to you is, what if that wasn't true? And you can actually build something stronger and more meaningful for yourself and others by being exactly who you are right now. This level of
Yeah.
honesty, this level of vulnerability, this level of depth, this level of like being able to like express your emotions, actually just express it and do it in a way that with other people there, that is intense for people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really do mean that there. Like, a lot of people don't know how to handle that. So like, even you in this form right now is still a lot.
Yeah.
it's just channeled and looks differently. And so I want to just like I want to invite that in there as you're doing it here. The soft invitation, the invitation to 3 or 4 people to just have a conversation with them without having to be loud on online, and just like to be you as you're doing this, whatever that looks like. There's space for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm feeling right now that we're probably at a place where we're complete.
Yeah, I feel that too.
Okay. I'm going to ask you here for your number one insight from today, right? And then we're going to talk about a practice that you like to take on. I would go again for me. The insight part is I want to give you a chance to think through it, but don't like if the answer is I didn't have any insights, that's fine too. You know, so let's start off with that. Like, what is one thing that you would like to like continue to grow upon as a result of this conversation?
So the insight was that I can be authentically me and be different than who I used to be. And that is okay too.
Awesome. And then to help you integrate that into your world here, what is one, I think of it like as a practice over the next 2 weeks, what's one practice that you can take on that will help you continue to integrate that? It might be what's one thing you want to play with too. It just depends on like your take on it. But if there was something in here that was just one practice that you can take on over the next 2 weeks to help you integrate that and to explore that and to give a chance to be messy and see different areas of it or to be deeper with it than you've ever been, like what's one practice that would really serve you right now?
I think probably acknowledging what emotions are coming up and maybe not having to pull them apart, but just to acknowledge their existence and maybe even practice saying out loud what it is so that in the future I can say it out loud what I'm experiencing in the moment. Even if I'm just doing it with myself as I'm floating through the house or doing whatever, like that, I think is probably going to be very valuable for me.
Awesome. So take that in there. I want to let you know there may be a day when you're ready to go and play with the idea of doing something online, not even online, but just bringing people together. I think that's really it. I know you and I are talking about how we can bring you into the tribe and into the community and have you do some things there. So I know that there's some things that are coming up along this path. And when you're ready to, well, when you're ready to do it, I just say do it. And if you want to have a conversation around it or something like that, let me know. I get various elements of the journey. I am not someone who likes to push people out of things. I'm like, it's like when, again, we're gonna have to walk through this journey side by side because otherwise I will be consistently pushing and it's just a lot of work and I don't want to do it. So, yeah, but I'm ready. I'm ready to be on it when you're ready for it. And I got you when you are. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Monique.